What's going on, guys? How are you? Behind the scenes Paper Trails podcast. We are with Kiel at Vaulted Oak Brewing, and he's going to give us a behind the scenes of how this all comes about. And so they're newer to Charlotte.
Yeah.
The last few months.
2.5 months.
2.5 months. And so if you haven't come to see them, stop by. But Kiel, what do we have going on here, man? How is this made?
Yeah, so we start here with the mash tun. This is basically where we mix in all of the grains with a very precisely temperatured water. Mix that up and create the mash, and from that mash we take that liquid. Which
how long does this stay here?
Probably about an hour or so.
Okay, so
and we'll kind of like recirculate the liquid back on top. Kind of essentially what we're trying to do is get the sugars from those grains.
Okay.
And extract those from the grains. And then that's called wort, and we send the wort over to the boil kettle over here. And then that's where all the magic happens.
Okay.
The first half of the magic, at least. But that's where we're boiling the wort, we're adding the hops, we're adding anything that might kind of add some of those
flavors.
The flavors.
Okay.
Some of those flavors, at least, depending on what beer you're making.
How long is it here? How long?
So it's usually about an hour. Some depending, if you want a bigger beer, sometimes you'll do it like 90 minutes. I've seen 2 hours in some cases, but most of the time it's about an hour.
Okay.
Give or take.
All right.
Adding hops at different points of that boil to give it either bitterness or flavor and aroma.
Okay.
Depending on what you want to get more out of.
So this is where we're actually tweaking flavor profiles, like
some of them, correct.
Things like that.
Yeah,
okay.
Mostly hops and things like that.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll have fruit additions, sometimes not. But as far as hops go, a lot of times that's where where we'll add it.
Okay.
And then but as far as like the maltiness, if you want a darker beer or a lighter beer, a lot of that still happens in here, depending on how much, what kind of grains you're putting in and stuff like that. So,
okay.
But from there, we boil it, like I said, then we whirlpool it around, and then send it through this heat exchanger.
Okay.
And then from this heat exchanger, get it down to temp about 68 degrees-ish. Okay. And then send it over to one of these big old tanks over here. And that's a big old fermentation tank. So that is a 7-barrel system. So roughly about 210 gallons that we can make in one time. So we have 2 7-barrel fermenters, and then we have 2 15-barrel fermenters. So if we want to do a double batch. So this batch that we're going to do, we actually did one yesterday, and we're going to do another one today to do a double batch of our blonde ale. And so here's also where, I guess I should back up. This is actually where the magic happens. This is where we pitch the yeast. And the yeast is the one that does all the work. Okay. As brewers, we just try to make the yeast happy, essentially. So let the yeast do its thing, goes in there, eats up all those sugars, and essentially poops out alcohol. And so we really make sure that it's right at a precise temperature while it's fermenting to keep that yeast happy. Let it sit there for anywhere from like 3 weeks to 6, 7, 8 weeks, depending on what style of beer. Yep. So like this one actually right here is a amber lager. That one's been sitting probably about 2 months, just because it ferments at a cooler temperature, so it's a little bit slower. So gotta let it.
When is this going to be ready?
We're hoping by the end of this week, actually. So hopefully today or this weekend we can package it up. Put it in kegs.
I didn't realize it took that long.
Yeah. And even for like a typical ale, like this blonde ale or an IPA or pale ale, roughly about 2.5, 3 weeks, I'd say, is at least what we do.
Yeah.
There are some places, some guys that will do a little bit quicker, depending on what yeast you use.
Yeah.
Tons of different metrics,
Sure. Different method styles, I'm sure.
Methods, metrics, all that stuff. But yeah, this is also where we'll add some more hops or something like that, or later fruit additions, anything like that, to also kind of accentuate that flavor profile that we're going for. But yeah, like I said, that's basically it. And then we'll keg it off when it's ready. We're sampling it every day, making sure that the pH levels, you know, the alcohol is developing the way it's supposed to. And essentially when we think it's ready, that's when we package it off and then serve it to y'all.
Love it, love it. You hear it right here, Vaulted Oak Brewing, behind the scenes, how the blonde ale and everything else is made. And so I hope you guys are looking forward to the podcast coming out here very soon.